The moment my mom said, "You're not half the woman your sister is," I swear the room stopped breathing. Even the clock on the wall seemed to freeze. Her words didn't just sting, they lit something in me I didn't know was still alive. I looked up calm as ever and said, "Then she can start paying your rent." Chairs scraped, forks clattered, and my dad's face turned the color of paper. "Rent, what rent?" he whispered. That was the night 3 years of silence shattered, but trust me, the truth didn't begin there. It started long before with one desperate call I'll never forget. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, tap like and tell me where you're listening from. I want to know if you've ever had to draw a line with family, so I know I'm not the only one. My name is Lily Hart. I'm 28, and from the outside, my life looks stable: steady income, clean apartment, predictable routines. I manage finances for a logistics company near Portland's harbor where numbers always balance and rules make sense. I wish families worked the same way. Every Friday night, I drive 30 minutes to my parents' house in the suburbs. It's been our tradition since I left for college, a family dinner, though it feels more like an unspoken contract. No one's allowed to miss it. If I say I'm tired, Mom calls until I answer. If I don't, Dad sends a message that reads like a joke, but isn't. "This family has a seat for you. Don't leave it empty." So I go. I step into the same house. The same smells: Mom's roast chicken, Dad's cologne, Ava's perfume that lingers long after she hugs me hello. And there's the same lineup of framed photos along the staircase: Ava's law school graduation, Ava receiving an award, Ava smiling beside my parents. My degree hangs somewhere in the hallway near the laundry room. At the table, conversation always starts and ends with her. Ava just won a new case. Ava bought new furniture. Ava might make partner next year. My dad's eyes light up when she speaks like she's telling stories from another world. My mom laughs too loud at every word, touching Ava's hand, as if she's holding a trophy. When the attention shifts to me, it's usually to compare. "You've always been the quiet one, Lily." Or, "You were never as ambitious as your sister, but that's okay." I nod, sip my wine, and pretend the comments slide off. But they don't. They never do. Because every time my mom boasts about Ava's success, I remember the nights I stayed up crunching numbers, transferring money from my own account to keep this house, their house, from falling apart. They never saw it. They never asked. They just believed I was fine because I never complained. They call me the calm one, the responsible one, the one who doesn't need attention. But even the quiet ones reach a breaking point, and mine was coming fast. It started 3 winters ago, on a night so cold the wind cut straight through my coat. I'd just finished a 12-hour shift at the office when my phone lit up with Mom's name. She never called that late, so I answered immediately. Her voice was trembling. "Lily, your dad lost a major contract this month. If we miss the payment, the bank will send a notice. We might lose the house. Can you help us just this once?" I didn't even think. My savings were meant for a down payment on my own apartment, but family came first. The next morning, I transferred the money. Mom called again, crying with relief, promising they'd pay me back once things stabilized. I believed her, but once became twice, then 3 times. Every month came the same text: "Just this month, sweetheart. Next month will be better." And each time I said yes. I stopped counting after a year. Somewhere along the way, I set up an automatic transfer so I wouldn't have to think about it. It felt easier to bleed quietly than to say no. The truth is, I didn't just send money, I sent pieces of my future. When friends asked me to join trips, I said I was busy. When my landlord raised the rent, I didn't move. I told myself it was temporary. Families help each other right. But somewhere between those payments and my parents' proud stories about Ava's success, I realized I wasn't helping. I was disappearing. I still remember the night I saw the total $72,000. My cursor hovered over the screen, blinking. That was my down payment, my dream home, my independence gone. What made it worse wasn't the money. It was the silence. No one had ever thanked me. Not once. During every dinner, my father toasted to Ava's achievements, my mother bragged about her clients, and I sat there knowing I'd quietly kept the roof above their heads. The next month, when Mom texted again, "Can you help just this once?" I didn't reply. I opened my banking app, found the automatic transfer, and hit cancel. The confirmation popped up small and simple. Are you sure? I clicked yes. And just like that, the weight I'd carried for 3 years shifted. I didn't know it then, but that single click was the start of my revenge. Not the loud kind, but the kind built on truth and proof. That night, after I canceled the transfer, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, staring at the glow of my laptop screen. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. For 3 years, I had tied my worth to those payments. Every dollar felt like proof that I was a good daughter, a reliable one. Without them, who was I? But the longer I stared, the lighter I felt. For once, I wasn't the invisible safety net holding everyone else up. I was just me, broke, tired, but finally free. The next morning, I woke before sunrise and went for a run along the Willamette River. The air was sharp mist curling above the water. My lungs burned, but it wasn't pain, it was something cleaner, clearer. Each step felt like peeling away the weight I'd carried since that first desperate phone call. From that day on, I started rebuilding, not for them, but for myself. On Thursdays, I joined a small cooking class at a community center downtown. It wasn't fancy, but it gave me something I hadn't felt in years, peace. No one there knew about Ava, or my parents, or the 3 years I'd spent saving a house that wasn't mine. They only knew me as Lily, the woman who loved making soups and always burned her first batch of bread. At work, I threw myself into projects. Numbers were still my language, but now they had purpose. My boss noticed. One evening after I stayed late running reports, he stopped by my desk. I like your precision, he said. You see things other people overlook. That compliment stayed with me longer than any praise my parents ever gave. Maybe because it was honest. Maybe because it was earned. 2 months later, a fintech startup in Seattle reached out. They wanted someone to lead their new financial analysis team. The offer was bigger than anything I'd ever imagined, 40% more pay plus company shares. I didn't hesitate. I signed the contract and packed up my Portland apartment. Moving to Seattle felt like shedding the last skin of who I used to be. The city air was cold, the skyline unfamiliar, but I loved every second of it. My new place was small, modern, and mine. No one's shadow reached me here. Still, some nights I'd sit on the floor, surrounded by old folders, proof of every transfer, every receipt, every message that began with just this once. I couldn't throw them away. Not yet. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. My parents' silence would never last forever. And when the truth finally came knocking, I intended to answer with facts, not tears. 6 months after I moved to Seattle, I thought I'd finally closed that chapter. New city, new job, new peace. Until one morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Mrs. Whitaker, my parents' elderly neighbor back in Portland. Hi, dear. I just thought you should see this. A photo followed a wide white banner stretched across my parents' porch. Big red letters read, "Congratulations, Ava Hart, for preserving the family home." For a second, I thought my chest had stopped working. I zoomed in, blinked, but the words didn't change. The house I'd kept afloat for 3 years was now her victory story. My vision blurred, the screen trembling in my hand. They hadn't just ignored what I'd done, they'd erased me completely. I sat there for a long time, the sounds of the city muffled behind me. Then something in me shifted. It wasn't anger this time. It was clarity. I opened the drawer under my desk and pulled out the folder I'd kept all this time. Inside were the payment logs, bank statements, screenshots of messages, every number and word that proved the truth. I'd built my life on proof. Now it was time to use it. That night, I compiled everything into a single presentation file labeled Simply Truth. I wasn't sure why I did it, habit maybe, or instinct, but deep down, I knew a day would come when I'd need it. The day arrived sooner than I thought. One evening, my cousin Nina called. "Hey, Lily. Just so you know, your parents are hosting a big family appreciation dinner this weekend. They're planning to honor Ava for saving the house. I thought you should hear it from me." I didn't respond at first. "They asked me to make the slideshow," Nina added quietly. "Do you want to see it?" Within minutes, the file landed in my inbox. I opened it. Pictures of Ava smiling on the porch, captions like, "Thank you for keeping our family's fire alive." I scrolled to the final slide, bold text glowing against a gold background. In gratitude to Ava Hart, the daughter who saved our home. I leaned back in my chair, letting the disgust settle. Then I opened my own file, the one labeled Truth. For hours, I worked in silence, replacing the ending slides with proof transfer timelines, a chart of monthly payments, screenshots of my mother's messages that began with just this once. I added a final photo of the house, simple quiet, with one caption beneath it. This was my contribution. Don't forget it. When I was done, I saved the file 3 times on my laptop, a USB drive, and the cloud. This time, there would be no misunderstanding, no rewriting of history. The dinner was set for Saturday night in downtown Seattle. I didn't RSVP, I just showed up. The restaurant was warm, bright, full of laughter. My father stood near the center holding a microphone, smiling with that pride I used to crave. My mother sat beside him, pearls gleaming while Ava glowed in emerald green. She looked exactly how I remembered her, perfect, untouchable. I stood in the doorway, unseen, until I heard my father's voice. "We are so blessed to have a daughter like Ava. She preserved our home, our legacy." Applause filled the room. My fingers tightened around the small USB in my pocket. When the slideshow began, I waited by the back wall. Pictures of the House of Family Holidays of Ava cutting the ribbon on her law firm all projected across a huge white screen. Laughter, clinking glasses. My parents smiling like nothing in the world could touch them. Then the final slide came up, except it wasn't Nina's version anymore. The room went silent. Bold black letters filled the screen. Financial contributions, 2020 to 2023. A collective murmur rippled through the guests. I stepped forward, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor. My father froze mid-smile. My mother's hands clenched around her glass. The slideshow rolled on 36 payments, 1 per month. Total $72,000. "Messages, sweetheart, just this month. We'll handle next time." The crowd whispered louder now, heads turning toward my parents. I stopped near the projector, face calm, heart steady. "If the truth embarrasses you," I said softly, "that's not my fault." For a few seconds, no one moved. Then, from somewhere in the back, someone started clapping. A single sound that grew, spreading through the tables. Some faces were stunned, others approving. My father's complexion drained to gray. My mother opened her mouth, but no words came out. Ava's eyes glistened, her lip trembling. 3 years, I continued. $72,000. Every month while you praised my sister for her success, I was paying for this family's home. You didn't just forget, you pretended it never happened. My father stammered. "We never asked. You didn't have to," I cut in. "You just let me." The room was dead quiet again. My voice didn't rise, but it carried. "You built your pride on silence. Mine. Not anymore." I unplugged the USB and tucked it into my bag. The crowd's eyes followed me as I turned toward the exit. My mother whispered my name, a soft, pleading sound, but I didn't stop. Outside, the night air hit me like a wave, cold, clean, honest. For the first time, I felt the ground solid beneath my feet. Behind me, muffled voices filled the restaurant, the world of half-truths collapsing under its own weight. I walked to my car, my reflection flashing briefly in the glass door as it closed. The woman staring back at me didn't look invisible anymore. She looked free, and maybe that was all the justice I ever needed. 2 days after the dinner, I woke to a soft knock at my apartment door. When I checked the peephole, I froze. My parents stood there, my mother's eyes swollen, my father's shoulders slumped like a man who'd aged overnight. I opened the door but didn't invite them in right away. The silence between us was thick, heavier than any argument we'd ever had. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice trembling. "Lily, we're sorry. We were wrong. We shouldn't have stayed quiet. We shouldn't have let Ava take the credit." She paused, swallowing hard. "We want to put your name on the house deed. You deserve it." For a moment, I just looked at them, 2 people I had spent years trying to please. Once, those words would have broken me wide open, but now standing in my own apartment, surrounded by the quiet I built myself, I realized I didn't need their apology to feel whole. I shook my head gently. "I have a home now," I said. I don't need to be tied to that one anymore. My father looked down his throat, tightening. My mother's lip trembled. There was so much they wanted to say, but nothing that could undo what had already been done. I never needed a deed, I continued softly. I just needed respect. For the first time, they both nodded, not out of defense or denial, but in understanding, and that, strangely, was enough. When they left, I stood by the window watching the city lights flicker across the water. The world outside felt calm, balanced like a set of numbers that finally added up. For the first time in years, I wasn't the quiet daughter or the forgotten one. I was simply Lily seen steady and free. That night, I sat on my balcony overlooking the Seattle skyline, a glass of wine in my hand. The city hummed softly below, alive and unbothered. I thought about everything that had happened, the dinners, the silence, the comparisons, the years I spent trying to earn love that was supposed to be given freely. I realized something simple yet freeing: my worth was never up for debate. It was never measured by my parents' praise or Ava's achievements. It was written in every moment I kept going, when no one noticed, in every quiet act of strength that no one clapped for. I glanced at the folder still resting on my desk, the proof that once defined me, and smiled. I didn't need it anymore. The truth had already done its job. So, if you've ever been made to feel invisible, remember, this silence doesn't mean weakness, and walking away isn't losing. Sometimes it's the only way to win. If this story hit home, tell me where you're listening from and hit subscribe for more stories like this. You're not alone.